Welcome to project management class. Just to summarize what we did last week, so that we can build it up from there. Last week we tried to define um, what a project is, and then we tried to look at the characteristics of a project. What makes up a project? We compared and contrasted between a project and an operation. We gave few examples of a project, and also looked at the definition of a project. So I think those are the things we did last week. So we said a project is a unique endeavor that produces a set of deliverables within specified time, budget, and specification. And we try to understand the key words that make up that definition, like unique, trying to achieve what has never been achieved before. Endeavor is any activity you decide to engage yourself, and then the deliverables are the product or the services, the consequence of that activity. And of course, we describe the budget, the time, and the specification as the triple constraint of a project. So in other words, we said project is engaging in an activity to produce what has never been produced before, okay, within specified budget costs, and of course, um, um, time and quality. All right. Then we looked at the characteristics of the project. We said they are unique, they are temporary, they are progressive, they are elaborate, they have an atom of risk. Okay, it is performed by people. It has they are both they are planned, executed, and controlled. So those are some of the characteristics of a project. Okay, and then we try to compare between a project and operation. We said the opposite of project is actually the operation. Operation is day-to-day activity that is repetitive, that is ongoing, like that. Why project has a start date and a finish date. Once the objective of the project is achieved, that's the end of the project. So we try to compare and contrast between the two. We said the similarities that exist between the project and operation is that they are both performed by persons, they're both planned, executed, and controlled. They both have atom of risk. They have a specified budget, cost, and time, like that, like that. Then the difference between them is that project is temporary, the other one is ongoing and repetitive. We said when the objective of the project is achieved, it comes to an end. But that of operation, even when you achieve the objective, they create new objective for you. We said the purpose of a project is to achieve a particular goal, objective, or to achieve a particular thing. But the purpose for an operation is to sustain the business. Okay, so those are some of the differences that exist between project and operation. So we give examples of a project to include building, the construction project, be it bridge or road or a house, Olympics, releasing new video album, and stuff like that. So I gave an assignment last week um, using JPTEX Institute as an example, if it's a project or an operation. I went through some people's write-up, and I was seeing so many things. I think the majority, almost 90%, uh, said that JPTEX is an operation. Some were able to give me reasons why they think it's an operation, why others just stated it there and gave me 2 lines and walked away. Okay, maybe before the end of the class, we'll be able to resolve the issue, and let's see how many persons that actually got that right. Okay, take every assignment very seriously. You'll be surprised that assignment I gave is 10 marks. All right, so let's proceed to what we have today. So before the end of the class, we'll solve the problem together. I'll tell you if JT is actually an operation or a project. So we are to continue from here, related endeavor. Okay. So what do we mean by related endeavors? These are programs or elements, okay, that make up a strategic plan of an organization as far as delivering product or service is concerned. Okay, related endeavor are basically programs or elements that make up the strategic plan of what the organization intends to achieve within a specified period of time. That's basically related endeavor. Now, these related endeavors, they are closely related to each other. Okay. As a matter of fact, one endeavor gives birth or gives birth to another endeavor. Okay. So they are closely connected, all related together. Okay. Now, when you understand related endeavor, it will be very, very easy for a project manager to be able to deliver the project both on time and, of course, they meet the target that's been set for that particular organization or for that particular project. So there are various what makes up this related endeavor. We have them in categories. Let's look at them one after the other. Okay, we have a portfolio, program, we have a project, and we have the sub project. These four things that I called for you now are what we refer to as the related endeavor: portfolio, program, project, and sub project. These are the related endeavor, and I'll tell you how they are closely connected to each other. Like I said, these four things I mentioned: portfolio, program, project, and sub project, are what plan of an organization, okay, in achieving a particular objective or in producing a product or delivering a service. So every organization who are into project management must be able to understand related endeavor. Okay, so let's look at them one after the other. What is portfolio? The big picture of the organization. Okay, the vision of the organization. Portfolio actually looks at that. It tells us what we want to do in the nearest future, not just for the present, but for the future. Now, in project management, we describe or we define portfolio to refer to as the grouping of projects and programs. Okay, portfolio refers to the grouping of projects and programs. It can also include other project related activities and responsibilities. I take it again. I said portfolio in project management refers to the grouping of projects and programs. It can also include other related activities and responsibilities. The grouping of projects and programs. It can also include other related project activities and responsibilities. Now, the purpose of a portfolio is to establish centralized management and oversight for many projects and programs. The purpose of a portfolio is to establish centralized management and oversight for many projects. That's the purpose of portfolio. Let me break it down in a language that we will all understand so that you know what I'm saying. Provided by Minister Fashola, okay? He's the Minister for Works. So as far as work is concerned in Nigeria, it comes under his ministry, okay? Now, when you look at, if for example, now you're appointed by the president to become the Minister for Works, when you look at that ministry, the reason or the objective why that ministry was set up is, if we're looking at works in form of road construction, of course, basically it has to do with road construction. The big picture or the objective for establishing that Ministry of Works is to make sure that all federal roads in Nigeria are motorable. That's the objective of Ministry of Works, to ensure that all federal roads in Nigeria are motorable. These also include in the state when you have Ministry of Works in the state headed by the commissioner to ensure that all state roads in a particular state are all motorable. But is it possible for Fashola to make all federal roads in Nigeria motorable within the specified time that he has, which is 4 years? It is not possible. So that big picture I just created now is what we refer to as the portfolio. That is the portfolio. You see, it has a big picture, the objective to make all federal roads motorable. That is portfolio. When you create an objective, a long-term objective that you know that you cannot achieve within a short period of time, that long-term objective you created is referred to as the portfolio. Now, but because Fashola has 4 years limited time to do that, to be able to make federal road motorable, and he knows he cannot do everything. So what he needs to do is he's going to step down from the first endeavor, which is the portfolio, because he knows that it is not achievable within the short period of time. He has to step down to the second endeavor, which is the program. As I told you, related endeavors are closely connected, interrelated to each other. So he's going to step down to a program. Program is also a group of projects, okay, that have been set up to be able to achieve it within that particular period of time. That is program. Like for example, in project management, we define program as a collection of projects that are managed as a group in order to achieve efficiency of scale. Okay, a collection of projects that are managed as a group in order to achieve efficiency of a project. So like I told you, the portfolio is not achievable because of the little time. Remember, we said every project has a start date and a finish date. He cannot achieve it in 4 years. So he said he's going to create a program. Now, what kind of program do you think Fashola is going to create that will still achieve the portfolio, the big objective? You may say, okay, let's select one federal road in all the 6 geopolitical zones of Nigeria. Let's select each of them and make it motorable. That becomes a program. So when he goes to, he can go to the northeast and select, let's say, Yola Borno Express Road. He can go to the northwest, select one road. He can go to the north central, select one road. Come down to the south south, select one. Come to the southwest, select one, and then the southeast, select one. So you see, he has 6 federal roads that he wants to make motorable within that 4 years, because he knows he cannot make all the federal roads in Nigeria motorable, which is the portfolio. He now developed a program which will also achieve part of the objective of the portfolio. So he has a collection of projects that he can now achieve within that space of 4 years. That becomes a program. So the northeast road, the northwest road, the north central, the south south, the southwest, and the south, it becomes a collection of projects that makes up that program. Do you understand it now? So this selected project becomes a program because that is what can be achieved. That's program. Now that takes us to the third one, which is the project. Okay. Now, of course, we define project. Okay, a unique endeavor. That means one to produce. Now, each of these federal road that was selected individually are referred to as projects. So a collection of all the projects makes up the program. Then a collection of all the programs makes up the portfolio. Am I making sense? Okay, so each of them now cannot be projects. So they will award maybe Southwest, ROCC take care of it, South South, Central will take care of it, North Central, Dantata Group take care of it, Northeast, Julius Berger take care of it, then Northwest, CCC company takes care of it. So each of these projects has been awarded to different construction company becomes a project. Okay, so I've explained portfolio, I've explained program, I've explained project. Then the last one, because I said there are 4 related endeavors, is the sub-project. Now for each of the, let's say for example now, let's pick one project out of this 6, which is the South-South. Because of the terrain in South-South, okay, for you to be able to achieve that project, Central to be able to achieve that project, he has to further break down that project into smaller units because of the terrain in the South. let's take for example now, in the south, we have pools of water, oceans, river. So sometimes this road needs to run through the river like that. So what is the sub project that we created to make it achievable? When you get to the pool of water, you have to construct a bridge or a flyover. The activity that is performed on a dry land is not the same activity that is performed on water. So from point A to point B, which is the dry land, becomes a sub-project one because activity performed there is different. While the bridge they're going to construct from point B to point C becomes another sub-project. So sub-project is a collection of what? Smaller units of activity that makes up a project just to be able to achieve. So Centraco has to break it down into sub-projects to be able to achieve it. So he marks point A to B, the dry land, then the one that has water, and that's all. So you see, these things I just explained now was related to them, and it makes up the strategic plan of an organization. So if you have an organization, for example, and you are into project delivery, you should be able to come up with a portfolio, the big picture, what we tend to achieve in the nearest future, in 10 years' time, in 20 years' time. That big picture, or what makes the organization what it is, becomes your portfolio. And then from that big picture, create a program that you can achieve at a particular time. And that program, we said, a collection of different projects. Okay? Collection of different projects. Then each of that project becomes your project. Now, inside the project, you have sub-projects. If, for example, you want to go into catering business, what is your long-term objective for venturing into a catering business? So you must have a portfolio to provide quality food, okay, for at an affordable rate for everyone living in a particular state. Let's say, for example, in Delta State. Is it possible to provide quality food to everyone in Delta State? It's not possible. So that becomes a portfolio. Okay. So by the time people now identify your catering company, and then you receive like 7 calls in a week contracting a catering service for you. Maybe you have a wedding, a birthday, a burial ceremony, a 50th anniversary. So in a month, you've been contracted 7 catering service. A collection of those 7 catering services that you've been contracted to do becomes a program for that month. Okay. Then each of those catering services now has the time. Maybe some will fall on Saturday, some is on Sunday. Each of them. So if you're catering for birthday, the activity you're going to do for birthday is different from the one you're going to do for the wedding, for burial, like that. So each of them becomes a singular project in itself. And then a particular project, you will see where the client will tell you what he wants. Make coconut rice, make fried rice, make jollof rice, do banga, stew, soup for those in the south, and I love it so much. So you have to divide all these things. So each of those things they said you should prepare becomes the sub-project of the project. The project is to deliver the quality food for a particular occasion. The sub-project in that project is the various food items they're going to make that becomes a sub-project. So they are all closely related together. I hope I've been able to explain that so I don't waste much time in related endeavor to understand that the related endeavor basically makes up the strategic plan of an organization, and they include the portfolio, the program, the project, and sub-project. So that takes us to a new topic, project management framework, which is the project management context. Okay, the project management context describes the environment in which the project operates. I take it again, the project management context describes the environment in which the project operates, and they include project phases and the project lifecycle, project stakeholders, organizational influences, key general management skills, and socio-economic influences. These 5 things makes up the project management context, which describes the environment in which the project operates. I'll try as much as possible to make these things practical. Like if I explain it, I'll give you a reason. I'll give you an example to see its application in the day-to-day activity. So let's see we cover the first one, which is the project phases and the project lifecycle. And we go to project stakeholders. So let's go to the project phase. What is project phase? A project phase is a collection of logically related activities that usually results in the completion of a major deliverable. The project phase is a collection of logically related activities. For those that are writing, if you can screenshot your screen, it makes it easier so that after the class, you can just use the screenshot to make your notes to save much time. Okay, so that I don't waste time writing and you're not paying attention. So a project phase is a collection of logically related activities usually resulting in the completion of a major deliverable. Organizations performing projects usually divide each project into several project phases to improve management control and provide links to ongoing operations. Let me explain it. Every project you want to execute has 3 phases. Every project, for you to successfully execute a project, you must divide that project into 3 phases. Just like the sub project I talked about. You remember, there's no difference between sub project and project phase. But even in the sub project, you can also divide that sub project into phases. Let's say, for example, now the construction of the bridge. You can discover that for you to achieve that construction of bridge, you need to divide it into phases. I'll explain it. Now, this project phase, another importance of this project phase is that it helps you to manage your time. It helps you to manage the cost, which is the budget I've been given. It also helps you to manage the quality. So the collection of the logically related activity that usually results in the completion of a project is called a project phase. I told you that no matter how big a project is, it is not by miracle. It's not by abracadabra. Okay, it was progressive. It was elaborate to be able to achieve that thing you're seeing. You go to Dubai, Dubai is something else. For those who have not been there, try and go there. Okay, it's something else. When you come there, like, what is this? It is not by magic. It's because they had good project managers that were able to put up what you're seeing over there. Let's take a building, for example. If you want to build a house, there are 3 phases in that building. First is foundation. The second is raising the blocks, the plumbing work, those 3 phases. So if you don't cannot do it, and that keeps you in one place that until you finish that particular one, you cannot move to the next. Understand that that is the phase of that project. If you're cooking, for example, you cannot start frying until you wash, cut, steam, wash, cut, grind, and maybe parboil some of the things. For example, you want to mix stew. So first of all, you cannot start frying until you grind the tomato, the pepper, until you cut the meats and steam them before you start frying. So until you complete that activity, that initial activity, you cannot move into the frying. Until you complete the frying and the cooking, you cannot serve that food on the table for people to eat. That's how you understand project phases. So you must complete one activity, a series of activities, before you can move into the next one. That is what project phase is. Okay. Now, what are the characteristics? Like I told you, each project phase is marked by completion of one or more deliverable. So the completion of the project phase is generally marked by a review of both the key deliverables and project performance to date. That means you have to review when you successfully complete a project phase, a particular phase, that launches you to the next one. Okay, so this is done by to determine if the project should continue to the next phase and detect and correct errors cost effectively. So project phase, like I told you, you cannot enter into the next phase until you successfully deliver that phase. Number 2, it helps you to detect error on time. Because if there's an error in the foundation, you quickly correct it before you start the next phase. Otherwise, if you don't correct it, that error can affect the entire quality of the project. So it helps you to detect and correct errors. It helps you to manage not just your cost, also your time effectively. Okay, so those are the characteristics of a project. Now, project lifecycle is a collection of this project phase. The entire collection of project phase is what referred to as the project lifecycle. Okay, so the project lifecycle is a collection of generally sequential project phases whose name and numbers are determined by the control needs of the organizations involved in the project. So the collection of project phases makes up the project lifecycle from beginning to the end. The start to the finish of that project is the project lifecycle. Okay, so life cycle generally defines what technical work should be done, because when you divide your project into phases, you understand what each phase needs, what kind of technical work needs to be done in that phase, what equipment and material is in that phase, how much are we going to spend, how many personnel do we need to achieve that. So in foundation, you know that no matter how big the foundation is, you should be requiring no more than 10 to 15 persons to dig foundation. So this helps you to manage the staff. You don't bring 50 personnel on site for foundation, because the moment they come to site, you must pay them. But because you're able to divide your project into phases, you now know how many personnel you need. You know how much you're going to spend. It helps you manage that triple concern I told you. It helps you manage it effectively. So by the time you enter the second phase, where the raising of the block, the conduit, the plumbing, the piping, the electrification, there are a lot of things, you know, that you can now be requiring 30, 40 staff. And by the time you're getting to the roofing, the staff also reduces. So you know how to expend your time, your cost, your resources, and the rest of them. So it answers what technical work needs to be done, okay? Who should be involved in each phase, just like I've explained. Who and who do you need? It helps you manage it effectively. I have a graph, okay, that will help us explain it very well. Okay, I need to go because of time. Look at the graph. Look at it very well. I want to explain this. This can help us understand project phase. Project life cycle. There are three phases in a project. So the collection of initial phase, intermediate phase, and final phase is referred to as the project life cycle, which I told you, collection of these three phases. Now look at the graph. You see the way the graph started from point zero. Now you have a graph of cost against time, which is one of the triple constraints. And if you're able to manage the cost and time effectively, quality will be delivered. So you see where you started from point zero to intermediate. And then by the time it's approaching the final phase, it's dropping. This is how you spend your money as far as your project is concerned. This is how you expend resources, whether material resources or human resources from start to finish. This is how you spend your time. Everything that the project requires like that. I give example with building. I divided that into three phases. Foundation to be the initial phase, every other work till roofing to be the intermediate phase, and then the finishing to be the final phase. In foundation, how much do you need? So the money you need to spend in foundation must be less than the money you're going to spend in intermediate. In fact, it is the intermediate that takes bulk of everything, both time, resources, material, everything, because that's where the major activity is being done. If you're cooking, for example, how many minutes do you need to cut, grind, and do all those things? Probably less than 5 minutes. By the time you enter the intermediate phase, a lot of things is involved. You need to fry the meat first. After frying the meat, you start frying the tomato. You wait until the tomato is dry before you now start adding all the ingredients and all the bobo error that you need. They allow you to parboil for like 5 minutes before you bring it down. So you see, if you spend 5 minutes cutting, grinding, and doing all those things, you're probably going to spend up to 15 minutes, 20 minutes frying, steaming, adding all the ingredients and the rest of them. Then the final phase, which is the serving of the food on the table. How many minutes will it take you to serve the food from the pot to the table, to the dining table? Probably less than 2 minutes. If you're talking about those that will help you, the resources that you need. How many persons do you need in the initial phase? How many do you need in the intermediate phase? So what we're trying to say in effect is that these are where people, there's a question I usually ask, and I'm going to ask it, okay, for my explanation, you're able to understand it. They said inadequate cost estimation can lead to the termination of a project at infancy. Please discuss. If I ask you this question in exams, how are you going to go about it? I take the question again. Inadequate cost estimate can lead to the termination of projects at infancy. So if you're able to manage your cost very, very well, before your project gets to finish, it has already collapsed. What are the why do we have such problem? If you understand this project phase and life cycle, you'll be able to answer that question. So you know how to, just like I told you, when you're estimating the budget or the cost for each phase, understand that where you're going to spend most of the money is on data. That's why you're seeing the graph rising. It rises to the peak at the intermediate phase. By the time it's approaching the final phase, it's dropping. That is how you're going to manage it. I hope with this diagram you've understood that there are three phases that you must divide the project into. We have the initial phase, we have the intermediate phase, and we have the final phase. Okay, and I said the collection of the initial phase, the intermediate phase, and the final phase makes up what we refer to as the project life cycle. Okay, so I think we're going to stop here for today because my time is almost up. So by the time we come the next week, we're going to look at the project stakeholders. So take the assignment I just gave now. I've explained part of it, but I want us to do a research as far as that question is concerned. Inadequate cost estimate can lead to the termination of projects at infancy. Discuss. Okay, how can inadequate cost estimate lead to the termination of projects at infancy? So I expect for those that didn't do my assignment last week, God help you. Please, you still have time to do the assignment of last week and an assignment that I've just given this week. All right. So we'll come next week. We'll continue with stuff. So a quick summary of what we've looked at today, which makes up the strategic plan of every project organization. Any organization that undertakes a project, it helps you create the vision of the company and how you're going to achieve those vision, okay, over time. And I said the related in the endeavor are four. They are interconnected and interrelated together. You have the portfolio, which is the big picture, a collection of programs. Of all the programs makes up the portfolio. Number two, we have the program. Program, because you cannot achieve the entire portfolio, you have to pick different project or activities to achieve in a particular time. The collection of those activities is our program. Then the project is the individual activities. Okay, that is the project that then produces a set of deliverables. And then we have the sub-project. A particular project may require different kinds of activities. So it's necessary to now differentiate those activities. Okay, so those activities that are different from another that makes up a particular project is all called sub-project. So be able to identify this sub-project that exists. They'll look at project management context. You said there are five. We have the project phases. We have the stakeholders of the project. We have the organizational influence and the rest of them. Today we talked about the project phase and the project life cycle. We said project phase is a logically related activity that makes up the entire project. And we said there are three project phases: the initial, the intermediate, and the final phase. We said the completion of a particular phase launches you to another. So how you identify the project phase of a project is that until you complete that activity, you cannot move into the other one. So be able to identify these phases, and there are only three: initial, intermediate, and final phase. Okay, when you're expending your time, your cost, your resources, everything, make sure that you spend bulk of the money at the intermediate, because that's where the major activities lie. The initial phase is like introducing the project, while the final phase is like you're already rounding up the project. So where the bulk money, the time, the resources is being spent is at the intermediate phase. All right, and we said the collection of these phases makes up the project life cycle. So that's a quick summary of what we've done today. So when we come next week, we'll continue from stakeholders. Thank you for your time, and have a beautiful day.